Hi guys, I've got a video now on adding and subtracting decimals, and this is from 6C. And I do apologise, I have the world's loudest crow outside my window right now. I can't seem to get rid of him. So maybe he wants to do some maths as well. Anyway, we'll push on. Okay, so when we're adding and subtracting or subtracting decimals in Year 7, most of the time you will have to set out your work yourself. Like, they won't have that done in the question for you already, and that's part of the challenge. Plus, most of these types of questions you will find with problem solving, so you might also have to work out whether you need to add or subtract by carefully reading the question. But I've got a more basic example here for you to start with, and later on in the term I'm going to go through a couple of different longer problem solving questions, and just reiterate with you how to attack those with highlighting and summarizing the question and stuff. Okay, but for now, I've got a addition that is laid out in a linear form, so that means like in a line, one after another after another. And the first thing I'd like you to do with these types of questions is just to have a little look at the size of the numbers, and then have a rough rounding guess to how big your answer should be. Okay, so I've got a 34. Don't even worry about looking at the decimals for the moment. I've got a 34 and a 1, so that's 35, and then 134, nearly 35. So my answer should be around 170. Okay, so I'm just going to write that down. And then later on, when you actually finish your addition or subtraction, you can just double check and see how close you were to your estimate. And if you're way off, then that might be a sign that you need to go back and check what you have done. Okay, so 2 things to remember with adding or subtracting decimals is you need to line up the decimals in your setting out and add a decimal point in your answer. Otherwise, you'll end up with a number that's technically not correct if it's missing the decimal point. And the other thing, which I'll show you in a sec, is you're going to fill in any blank areas with a 0. Fill in. It's not a very mathematical term, but you know, makes sense. Okay. So when you're setting it out, you write your first number down, 34.831, and then I do it this way. Now, you might not necessarily, but that's okay. I sort of put my next decimal point down, and then I build around it, so I know that I've got my places lined up as best I can. Okay, so that's that one, and then I've got 134.9218. So I'm going to put my decimal point down and write my decimals down, 9218, and then 134. Now, I do it that way because sometimes if I start from the beginning of a number, I end up not writing them exactly where I need to, and then my decimal points skew and then I usually get it wrong when that happens. So, and then as well, always check which operation you're doing. I see so many times people do an addition sum when the question's asking for subtraction, and it just really breaks my heart, you know, so just be careful. Alright, so I'm going to fill in any gaps with zeros, and that's particularly important with subtraction, because sometimes when you need to borrow and there's a blank space there, some people just muck that up. So I'll show you a subtraction example in a sec. But just do it for addition anyway, and then you just always know to do it. And then that makes my heart happy because I've got all the places filled in, and it just seems more logical to me. Alright, so I've got, now I just complete it like a normal addition. But before you start, I always think it's a good idea to put your decimal point exactly in line in your answer. Okay, because that will just make sure you don't forget to do it. Alright, 8 and 0, 0, 8. 1 and 1 is 2. 3 and 4 is 7, plus 2 is 9. 9 and 8 is 17. Carry my 1. 1 and 4 is 5. And then that is 10. So that makes that 7. and then this is 1. Oh, 170, nailed it. Okay, close to my estimate. Well, pretty much my estimate. Okay, so that's good. I know that I'm pretty much on the right track. Now, that doesn't negate the fact that I might have made a little error somewhere, but at least it's past the first checkpoint as such. Okay, I'll do a subtraction now. Give me a sec to make up a question. Okay, so I've actually chosen a pretty tricky question for this on purpose because I want to make sure that we understand how the borrowing works with decimals, okay? So the same thing applies as above. I'm going to set out my question as carefully as I can, okay? Building my question around my decimal points. Making sure everything is lined up as I can. Now it's a subtraction. Alright, now even more importantly than our addition question, we're going to fill in all of our gaps with zeros. Okay, now the temptation here is to go 0, 0, oh, take away 2, oh, that's just 2 because I'm just taking away 0. That's not true, okay? So we need to go from the top down. So if I have 0 and I take away 0, I've got 0 still, and I take away 2, that's actually negative 2, okay? So this is where we need to borrow. But if I look at my question here, I can't borrow from a 0 because there's nothing there. So I need to move all the way over here to do my first borrow, okay? So that would make that 2, but I can't put my 1 right here. I need to go back one place value at a time. So I've borrowed the 1 from the 3 to make it 2. My 1 then goes here and this becomes 10, but I'm still needing something here, okay, to help me out with this subtraction. So I'm going to borrow from here and that's going to become 9. Now I have my 1. So remember, you can't borrow a 1 from a place value that's not the one next to it, okay? So now I've got 10, take away 0 is 0, take away 2 is 8. Right, 9 now, take away 8 is 1. 2, take away 3, well I know I need to borrow straight away now. So I go 8, I can borrow from that because there's enough there. That becomes 12. Take away 3 is 9, take away another 3 is 6. 8 take away 7 is 1. I should have put my decimal point in at the start, but there it is there. 4 take away 0 is 4, take away another 4 is 0. And then 1 take away 0, 0, that's 1. Okay, so when I look at, I should have done my estimate before, I apologise. So I've got nearly 15, take away a little tiny speck, 0.03, take away nearly 5. So I would be looking at about 10, which I've got there. Okay, so just to recap, line up the decimals, add a decimal point in your answer, and then fill in any blank arrows with 0 and then complete your addition or subtraction.